When most Americans hear Colombia, they picture one of two things: coffee plantations growing in the hills, or they picture Pablo Escobar, danger, and chaos. But what if I told you that Colombia is now one of the fastest growing retirement destinations in South America? What if I told you that everything you've heard about Colombia might be wrong? I'm here to go over 5 myths about Colombia that just might change your mind about retiring to this beautiful country. So, stick around, because busting myth number 5 could save you thousands of dollars every single year in retirement costs. Welcome back to Retire Without Borders, the channel where I uncover the smartest, safest, and most affordable places for Americans to retire abroad. Now, I grew up in the 1980s, and the image of Colombia we all had was that of danger and crime. I can confidently tell you that is no longer the case. In fact, Colombia is no home to over 50,000 American retirees. Today, I'm busting 5 of the biggest myths about retiring in Colombia. I'm going to dive deep into safety, healthcare, and whether you can actually live there comfortably on just your Social Security check. The answer to that question is a definite yes, but I'll go over it in detail later. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I drop new retirement guides all the time that could change the way you think about your future. Let's start with the first myth, the elephant in the room. Before I get into cost of living, you want to know if it is actually safe in Colombia. When Americans, especially those of us who lived through the 1980s, think of Colombia, they often imagine drug wars and kidnappings. Yes, Colombia had a dangerous past, but the story today is very different. Take Medellin, once labeled the most dangerous city in the world. Today, it's transformed into one of the most innovative cities in South America. Expats stroll through walkable neighborhoods. They ride clean and efficient cable cars. In fact, Medellin's crime index today is lower than either Los Angeles, where I live, or Miami. Just take a look at this chart for a comparison. I was honestly surprised when I saw how low the crime rates in Medellin were. One American retiree I spoke with, a woman from Chicago, said she actually feels safer walking home at night in Medellin than she ever did in her old neighborhood in the US. That should tell you something about Colombia. The real enemy isn't Colombia, it's the outdated myths that keep people from even considering it. Another big concern among we retirees is healthcare. Many Americans assume that medical care in Colombia is second-rate. That can't be farther from the truth. In fact, Colombia's healthcare system is ranked among the top in Latin America. Among some studies, it even beats the US for quality. Great, you're thinking. That means it must be expensive. Well, no. In fact, healthcare in Colombia is very affordable. In the US, your retirement dollar is under attack by that skyrocketing healthcare bills and housing costs. But here in Colombia, you can flip the script. A routine doctor's visit might cost $40 out of pocket. A private insurance plan will cost as little as $60 to $100 per month, depending on your age and coverage. And we're talking about modern hospitals with internationally accredited doctors, many of whom trained in the US or Europe. And here's something you might not know. Colombia is becoming a hub for medical tourism, especially for dental and elective procedures. That alone should tell you how good the medical system is. As you can see here, the costs for a doctor visit, insurance, and dental work in Colombia with the EPS system is far less than that in the United States. Now, if you're coming as a new retiree, you'll likely want international health insurance at first, which is easy to get and affordable. But once you get residency, you can join the local EPS system, Colombia's national health insurance, for a fraction of what Medicare costs back in the States. Okay, I've convinced you Colombia has great healthcare and is safe, but can you actually afford to live here comfortably? Well, yes, this is where Colombia really shines. Let's take Medellin, for example. Here, a modern one-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood averages between $500 and $700 per month. Your utilities will cost you about $70 a month. Groceries for 2? That will cost you only about $200 a month. And how about the cost for eating out? You can grab a set lunch for $4 or enjoy a nice dinner out for $8. And speaking of expenses, one question I hear all the time is, do I need a car in Medellin? The answer is simple, not really. Medellin has one of the best public transportation systems in Latin America. The metro, trams, and even the famous metro cable cars connect the city from the valley floor up into the hills. They're safe, clean, and cost just a few dollars a day. On top of that, taxis are everywhere and inexpensive, and ride-hailing apps like Uber and InDriver make getting around simple and cheap. In fact, many retirees spend less on transportation in a month here than they would on a single car payment back in the US. Your average monthly budget should be around $1,000. Compare that to US prices, and your retirement dollars stretch much further. But here's the kicker. Retirees living on nothing more than their Social Security check, around $1,500 a month, report not just getting by, but living well. So where do Americans live in Colombia? The majority live in Medellin, the largest city. Others live in Cartagena, often in beachfront condos. Still others choose Bogota or Cali, in short. Medellin is by far the #1 hub for Americans in Colombia, but Cartagena and Bogota also attract many expats. And speaking of living in Colombia, myth number 5 could save you thousands more, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. One of the things retirees love most about Colombia is its incredible variety of climates. Because Colombia sits on the equator, you don't really get 4 seasons. Instead, the weather depends on the altitude. Take Medellin, known as the city of eternal spring. Year-round, you'll enjoy mild days in the 70s and cool nights in the 60s. Perfect for outdoor living without extreme heat or cold. Head to Cartagena or the Caribbean coast, and you're looking at hot, humid, tropical weather sunny beaches most of the year, but with rainy periods between May and November. In Bogota, up in the Andes at 8,600 feet, the air is cooler. Think 50s and 60s, with misty mornings and sweater weather at night. And if you go into the coffee region, cities like Pereira or Manizales, you'll find lush green landscapes, steady rainfall, and comfortable spring-like weather most of the year. So whether you love tropical sunshine, crisp mountain air, or something in between, Colombia gives retirees the option to pick their perfect climate without ever leaving the country. Now, what about the language barrier? I learned Spanish in middle school and continue to practice it. Many retirees, however, don't speak it. They may worry they won't survive without fluent Spanish. Well, here's the reality of day-to-day life in Colombia. Spanish is indeed the official language, but in expat-friendly cities like Medellin, Cartagena, and Bogota, you'll find locals who speak basic English. This is especially true in healthcare, banking, and hospitality. Plus, Colombia has vibrant expat communities where English is spoken daily. Back home, too many retirees spend their days isolated. But in Colombia, community isn't just available, it's unavoidable, and that's a good thing. That said, learning basic Spanish will absolutely make your life easier, and it can actually be fun. Imagine learning while dancing salsa, joining a local cooking class, or practicing with new Colombian friends at a cafe. In fact, many retirees say that learning Spanish gave them a richer, more connected retirement experience. And now for one of the biggest myths, that it's impossible to get a legal visa to retire in Colombia. Here's the reality. Colombia has a specific retirement visa. To qualify, you need proof of a pension of at least 3 times the Colombian minimum wage, around $900 USD per month. Compare that to Spain, which requires $2,700 or more per month to retire. By the way, I've created a guide to retiring in Spain. You can watch it by clicking the link above. In any case, once you have the visa, you gain access to Colombia's healthcare system, and you can apply for permanent residency after just 5 years. And that's where the big savings come in, healthcare access and reduced living costs over time. Sources like Taxes for Expats and My Life Elsewhere state that retirees in Colombia pay approximately 60% less than they would in the United States. I spoke with a couple from Florida who retired here last year. Their only income is Social Security. They not only qualified for the visa, but now live in Medellin comfortably, with healthcare included, for less than what they used to pay in rent alone back in the States. So let's recap the myths we've just busted. First, Colombia isn't the dangerous place you think it is. Second, healthcare is high quality and affordable. Third, the cost of living is surprisingly low. Fourth, English speakers and expat communities make life easier. And fifth, yes, visas are not only possible but surprisingly accessible. Those myths you hear about? That's right, they are just myths and very far from reality. The reality is very different. Colombia deserves a spot on your retirement radar. So the real question is, could you see yourself retiring in Colombia? Tell me in the comments. Would you choose Medellin's eternal spring, Cartagena's Caribbean charm, or Bogotá's bustling capital energy? And don't forget, download your free retirement starter guide at retirewithoutborders.net. It's packed with budgets, visa tips, and city comparisons to help you decide if retiring overseas is right for you. If this video helped you rethink retirement, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you never miss my next guide. Finally, remember to sign up for VPN access to ensure you are protecting your identity when traveling or living abroad. The link is at the top and in the comments. Don't forget to watch this video next on how to take a retirement test drive before you move.